Good afternoon, everybody. We are ready, just about, to begin our committee meetings this afternoon. I did want to start just by welcoming everyone and most especially saying thanks to Dr. Seymour and to Stuart Smith, our president at the TCAT Athens, for your hospitality. We've all had an opportunity for some interesting tours this morning, a chance to look at both campuses. We had a terrific lunch brought to us by the TCAT at Athens and the Athens Federal Community Bank, and we thank you very much for that hospitality. Before we begin our committee meetings, however, I do want to note some sad news that occurred earlier this week, and since we are sitting in Cleveland, so close to Hamilton County and the home of Claude Ramsey, I do want, on behalf of this board, to extend our deepest sympathies to Jan and Claude's family. As most of you know, Claude served with great distinction as deputy governor to Governor Haslam, as property assessor, as a state legislator, and did an incredible stint, I think it was 5 terms, as county mayor in Hamilton County. He was a statesman in the truest sense of the word and will be sorely missed by his family and friends and the community and all of us whose life he touched. He was a masterful politician, but more importantly, he was a great citizen, and all of us, Debbie from Chattanooga State, Debbie Adams and I were reminiscing today as we drove up to Athens just on some great Claude Ramsey stories. So he will be missed. Would you all join me for just a moment of silence on Claude Ramsey's behalf? Thank you. Thank you. Godspeed, Claude. You will be missed. With that, we have 4 committee meetings this afternoon. We started our morning with an excellent meeting of the Committee on Economic and Community Development, chaired by Regent Apple. And we will pick up our pace now with finance, followed by personnel, academic policies, and external affairs will round out our afternoon. So with that, Chairman Duckett, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds, and I did note that you said that we would pick up the pace. I don't know if that was any indication that you want this committee meeting to move it along, but we will do so. First item, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Thank you. Regent Autry.
Here.
Regent Burdine.
Here.
Chairman Duckett.
Here.
Regent Griscom. Regent Hatch.
Here.
Regent Kraus. Regent Prescott. Here. Regent White. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With the quorum being present, therefore, I am calling this meeting of the committee to order. The first item on the agenda is review of the minutes from the April 30th, May 18th, and May 30th, 2018 special call meeting of the Finance and Business Operations Committee. Does anyone have any questions regarding this item? If not, is there a motion to approve the committee reports from April 30th, May 18th, and May 30th special call meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. With a proper motion by Regent Burdine and second by Regent Prescott, this item requires a voice vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the review and consideration of recommended revisions to policy 4.01.03.00, which is payment of student fees and enrollment. I would like to call on Vice Chancellor Gibbs to come forth and present that item to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. The revisions that you have before you today are the result of the passage of Public Chapter 739 during this year's legislative session. The legislation authorizes the College System of Tennessee Schools to issue certificates of credits or official transcripts on behalf of the students seeking admission to any school in the College System of Tennessee, even if the student has prior outstanding debt with the issuing institution. However, the transcript may only be issued if the student enters into a written agreement to satisfy the debt or outstanding obligation. There's one exception to the rule. The schools are authorized under the new legislation to issue diplomas, certificates of credit, or official transcripts without a written repayment agreement if the debt outstanding is less than $100. The old law, really for practical purposes, prohibited students from receiving a transcript, diploma, or certificate if any money was owed to the institutions. Really, the impetus behind the new law is the Tennessee Reconnect program. The legislative intent of the new law is to create a pathway that will allow students that have been out of school and that have prior debt to return to school, participate in the Tennessee Reconnect program, and to ultimately graduate. To comply with the law and legislative intent, TBR Policy 4010300 needed to be revised. The proposed revisions before you support the law and legislative intent. I'll briefly go over some highlights of the policy revisions with you. Under the revised policy, students will now be able to have the transcript sent to another College System of Tennessee school and to register for classes even if they have prior outstanding debt, provided they sign the designated repayment agreement. And we need to remember that this is only applicable among our system. We are not authorized to issue records if the student has debt to other LGI institutions or the University of Tennessee or to private schools. This is only within our system. Under the revised policy, the student can enroll and progress toward completion, and the degree will be conferred when earned. However, the diploma will not be released until the prior debt is paid, which is consistent with the new legislation. To participate in this program, the policy requires that the student must not have been enrolled in the previous semester, excluding summer semester. And again, remember the intent of the legislation was to provide a pathway of return for those that have been out of school. Also, students participating in the agreement must remain continuously enrolled, and this is consistent with the requirements of the Tennessee Reconnect program and the Tennessee Promise program as well. Schools are authorized to allow students to register, issue diplomas, certificates of credit, or official transcripts without any restrictions if the outstanding debt is less than $100, and this too is consistent with the new law. Additionally, under the revised policy, students currently enrolled in owing less than $100 will not be purged from class for non-payment of fees. Currently, if a student has a balance on a certain date, we're required to remove those students from class, purge them from the records, but if a student has less than a $100 balance, we will not do that. While this is not a debt forgiveness program, it is basically a second chance program in that it allows students to return and receive a second opportunity to graduate and receive their diploma, while at the same time settling their prior obligations to the institutions in a manner that works best for them. So, Mr. Chairman, this completes the overview of the policy revisions, and with that, staff recommends approval of the revisions to Policy 4010300, payment of student fees and enrollment.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs. Members of the committee, you have listened and received information regarding the revisions to the policy related to payment of student fees and enrollment. Does any member have any questions of Vice Chancellor Gibbs? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Burdine. Second, Regent Prescott. This item requires a voice vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The third agenda item is the review and consideration of funding operations for the 2018-2019 fiscal year and approval of the finalized estimated budgets for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Additionally, I would note for the members that we will consider the local government institutions budget as required under the Focus Act At this time, I will now ask Vice Chancellor Gibbs to summarize the recommendations on the estimated and proposed budgets for the system institutions and for the proposed budgets for our local government institutions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today we'll be seeking your approval really of two budgets, the fiscal year 17-18 estimated budget and the fiscal year 18-19 proposed budget. Really as a reminder, the estimated budget, it's really the last budget of the year. It's the final approved budget that we'll receive for the current fiscal year. And this recognizes changes that occurred during the year with regard to enrollment, levels of grant activity, and any other adjustments required by state budget action. At the end of the fiscal year, we will compare actual expenditures and revenues back against the estimated budget that you're approving today to determine whether we had favorable or unfavorable outcomes for the year. With regard to the proposed budget, approval of the proposed budget provides the system with budgetary operating authority for the year beginning July 1, 2018. So this will be our new year operating budget. The proposed budget does not recognize factors such as actual enrollment changes, again, level of grants or revenues that may be received, or any other final adjustments or final budget actions. The institutions will have an opportunity to make these revisions in October, and those will be presented to your December board meeting. So after they see what their actual fall enrollment will be, we will give them another opportunity to revise their budget and to take these things into account at that point in time. First, we'll take a look at an overview of where the money comes from and what it pays for in our proposed budget. As you can see from the chart, approximately 63% of our revenues are generated from fees and appropriations. This is in the form of state appropriations, maintenance fees and tuition, mandatory and incidental fees, and we use these monies really to pay for all expenditures in all functional areas of our colleges, those being instruction, public service, academic support, student services, institutional support, plant operations, and scholarships. You'll also see in yellow 3% of our revenues come from sales and services and other miscellaneous sources. And these come from service assessments. You'll see a lot of this often at our TCATs, where there is a fee for service, investment incomes, and private grants. And again, those account for approximately 3% of our total revenues. And revenues from these sources can be used to pay for all the functional categories that I just described. You will see that a third, basically, of our revenues come from restricted sources, and those being federal and state student assistance, grants, contracts, various federal grants and contracts that we have, endowment income, and gifts. And typically these go to pay for items in the instruction, scholarships, and public service areas. And the last source is auxiliary funds. And these typically, especially the community college, comes from bookstore operations and food service operations. And these are really break-even activities. We receive no taxpayer support or tuition support for these activities. And again, these will cover all expenses associated with these activities. And then any profits that may be generated can be used to support the unrestricted budget in any manner that the institution sees fit. Okay, the slide that you have before you now is a comparison of revenues, of the estimated revenues and the proposed budget revenues. For fiscal year 2017-18, you will see that total revenues from all sources are a little over $1 billion, $1.059 billion. For 18-19, the proposed revenue budget is $1,081,171,171,000. And that's overall an increase of approximately 2%. If you look at each individual line item, you'll see that state appropriation had the largest change from estimated to proposed, and that was a 6% increase. And we'll go over that in a little further detail on the next slide. And you really have the details at the college level in the materials that were provided to you. This is a summary for the system as a whole. Okay, you have before you now a reconciliation of state appropriations. Here we will start with the appropriations for the estimated budget, and that was $329 million. And at the end, you will see the appropriations for the proposed budget of $348 million. And then we have listed the reconciling items that will describe for you the changes from estimated to proposed. The first item that we have some non-recurring items of a reduction of $1,283,000, and that's really made up of three different things. The first thing is there was a $1.5 million reduction, and this is related to TBR cost allocation support. And as you may recall, with the Focus Act, we're transitioning our operations from when the universities, the LGIs were included, now to our post-Focus Act when the university is no longer included. And to assist us with that, the state provided $1.5 million in non-recurring revenue to us for fiscal year 17-18. Additionally, as part of the outcomes funding formula, you may recall really the first thing that happens there each year is that existing state appropriations are reallocated based on the most recent outcomes. And when that process occurred this year, the community college's appropriation in total declined $479,500. The TCATS formula adjustment actually increased $696,000. So these three items account for the $1.2 million non-recurring reduction. Also related to the outcomes-based funding formula, the system received $9,052,000 for outcome funding improvements. Of that, $7.1 million was for the community colleges, and approximately $1.9 million was for the TCATS. Additionally, we received an adjustment for group insurance increases, and then the state portion of the 2.5% salary pool was also funded at about approximately $7.9 million. The last item are a couple of initiatives that were funded. The first being the mobile adaptive units. We received $1 million for those. And then also, again, related to the TBR, the cost allocation and the Focus Act that I described earlier, we are going to receive another $750,000 in the 18-19 budget year related to that. So those items will reconcile us from the estimated budget to the proposed budget. Just as a note, one other item that you may recall that we've discussed in the past, we also received $1 million for relational advising, and we account for those as restricted funds, so those are not reflected in what you're seeing here, but I did want to remind everyone that we did receive $1 million for the relational advising program as well. The next slide will actually show you the revenues by sources by sector. Here we break apart the community colleges and the TCATS. Again, you'll see the largest portion is from appropriation and tuition and fees for both sectors. 31% appropriations for community colleges, 34% tuition and fees for the community colleges, and again, about a third restricted funds. TCATS a little bit more on the appropriation side, 39% of their total revenues, 22% tuition and fees, and likewise with them about a third for the restricted funds. Here we'll be looking at unrestricted E&G expenditures by functional area, and again, those are the areas that I described earlier: instruction, research, public service, etc. that are listed for you there. In total for fiscal year 2017-18, the estimated budget ended at $1,120,879,000. For fiscal year 2018-19, the total expenditures and transfers ended at $1,085,920,000. And if we look at the variances there are really two that I'd like to address. The scholarships and fellowships declined by 15%. And if you recall, this is because Pellissippi State had their own Tennessee Reconnect program in fiscal year 17-18 that they funded out of their operating budget. And that was really a one-time expenditure because, as we know, in 18-19, the state's Tennessee Reconnect program is available. So their expenditures went down from 17-18 to 18-19 as a result of the state funding the Tennessee Reconnect program. And then the other item that we'll briefly discuss are the transfers to plant funds. And that decreased from the estimated budget to the proposed budget by 87%. And if you recall, the plant funds are funds that institutions set aside for really non-recurring needs related to capital, whether it be major capital maintenance or some smaller capital outlay, replacing equipment, things of those natures. And this is typical. Usually we will see a larger transfer in the estimated budget than we will the proposed budget. And part of that is at the end of the fiscal year, the campuses, if they had any fund balance that they rolled forward from the previous fiscal year, they will often transfer a portion of that to the plant funds for future purchases, again, of equipment or capital-related projects. Also, during the fiscal year, there some savings can be generated, non-recurring savings, from things like positions that are temporarily vacant during the year. Those will generate some savings usually by the end of the year, and again, the campus will often transfer some of those proceeds over to the plant funds for future investment in their campuses. I think this year we saw Nashville State, I think Jackson State, and Southwest were three schools that had some larger transfers, and there were some reasons behind those. Nashville State, I think, transferred about $14 million in preparation for their North Campus project. Jackson State also transferred about $8 million in unexpended plant, and that was for some local campus projects, a lot of infrastructure-related items that they hope to accomplish. And then each of the three schools transferred money to the plant funds for future equipment and general campus R&R purposes. And a lot of this equipment usually is related to academics, it's related to IT, but schools are prudent to set aside funds for those. The next slide will show you the same total expenditures that we just looked at, but this time they're broken down by natural classification. So here you can see salaries and employee benefits, travel, operating, capital, transfers, etc. The variance that we have that we'll look at there, the salaries changed by 7%, and really the cause of this was the 2.5% COLA that again has been funded. I think about 1% was related to new positions across our system, and probably about 3% or so, again, was related to those unfilled positions that were unfilled temporarily during the year and then were fully funded in the next year. And again, the transfers, 87%. We just discussed those on the previous slide. And this slide, again, is related to transfers, but it just gives you a little further breakdown, really in the areas that I just discussed. You see the two largest are always unexpended plant and renewal and replacement, and we just discussed the purpose of those and the schools that had the larger transfers this year, again, for future improvements. Okay. This slide will show you a recap of the unrestricted funds available and applied for our campuses, and again, this is total across our system. It shows a reconciliation from beginning fund balance to ending fund balance for, again, fiscal year 18-19. The overall decline is approximately $1.5 million, but again, this is attributable to the institutions transferring funds to their plant fund for future equipment and capital outlay needs. I think overall the budgets that were submitted were in pretty good shape for fiscal year 18-19. The next slide shows you the total authorized positions by type for our system. Again, these are broken into the type categories of faculty, administration, clerical and support professional. You'll see that the grand total for the system as a whole, 6,634 positions. And when you approve the budget, you'll also be approving, or will be included in that, the position counts that we have before you today as well. Okay. This slide summarizes everything really that we've just discussed. It will show you the total expenditures for the system, again, each being a little over $1 billion. This is what we before you for approval today. And again, total authorized positions, 6,634. And finally, we will look at consideration of the university budgets. In order to ensure the ability to satisfy both contractual obligations to the Tennessee State School Bond Authority and obligations to the authority's bondholders, the Board of Regents has the authority over and shall give final approval to the operating budgets of each state university. To that end, we're required to consider university budgets, and that consideration is limited to the matters that are necessary to fulfill the existing covenants, representations, and agreements and obligations under the financing agreements entered into with the Tennessee State School Bond Authority. To that end, the university budgets have been received and reviewed in accordance with TBR policy. They were reviewed to determine if debt service coverage requirements were met, that they were basically mathematically correct, and that the universities had properly certified compliance with required representations. And the chart below there will show you that they have met the coverage metrics. The requirement is that unrestricted revenues be at least 2 times the debt service amount, and you can see from the chart that they have more than covered those requirements, and that also we have received, again, certifications of compliance from each of the campuses. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation regarding the estimated budgets for fiscal year 17-18 and proposed budgets for fiscal year 18-19 for the College System of Tennessee and the locally governed institutions. And with that, staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs. Does anyone have any questions regarding the presentation and recommendations by Vice Chancellor Gibbs? If not, is there a motion to approve the funding for operations for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, approval of the finalized estimated budgets for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, and for approval of the local government institutions budget?
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Hatch. Is there a second? Second, Regent Autry. This item does in fact require a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Thank you. Regent Autry.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Chairman Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent Prescott.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The final item on the agenda is review and consideration of the capital budget recommendations for 2019-2020 fiscal year. And for this presentation, I would call on Executive Director Dick Tracy to review the capital budget recommendations for the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Duckett and members of the committee, for the opportunity to appear for you. For your consideration, I want to present the staff's recommendation for the 2019-2020 Tennessee Board of Regents capital budget request. Please direct your attention to the screens and the materials for the summary. The 3 classifications of projects and the recommendations are capital outlay, capital maintenance, and disclosures listed in the budget utilizing other funding sources. And these are done in accordance with the THEC guidelines as well as the administration. The capital outlay projects have been objectively analyzed for relative priority based on the THEC criteria. The 5 categories for the THEC's evaluation are state goals and the drive to 55, campus master plans and strategic plans, the project description and impact on the campuses, the space needs, which include the THEC space guidelines and assessments, as well as external funding. We're recommending funding on 9 outlay projects for the 2019-2020 shown on your booklet, page 5. The total of the list we're recommending is $175,480,000. When adjusted by the match contribution required by the institutions, the capital outlay request is for $164,009,450. Capital outlay funding is very important to the quality of our institutions. Over the past 5 years, we've received an average annual funding of approximately $66 million, which includes special appropriations, and we're appreciative of the funding that we have received. The 9 projects that we're recommended are the Columbia State Williamson County Technology Building, the Roane State Knox County Campus Replacement, the McMinn County Higher Education and Training Facility, the Motlow State Rutherford County Teaching Site Addition Building 4, the TCAT Chattanooga Technical Education Building, the Vol State Wilson County Campus, the South Central Regional Center for Health Sciences and Industrial Technologies, Jackson State Library Renovation, and Nashville State's Clarksville Expansion. These are broken down in 3 bands, and that's at the request of THAC. And what they will do is we will submit these, and they will evaluate those. And there's a possibility that the ones in Band 1 could change based off of their scoring, but it won't affect any of the other projects as listed. If you look at the screen on page 6, you'll notice a chart depicting the external funding for the match of the capital outlay projects. TX scoring is based on a ratio of the project's minimum match requirements to the project's maximum scorable match. The minimum match will receive no points, but as the match approaches the maximum scorable level, points will increase proportionately. A portion of the match for new construction needs to be from gifts. There are no longer match requirements for the TCATs. The lower chart outlines the proposed match plans. These were previously reported by the Vice Chancellor, but we've included these for informational purposes in the budget request. These describe the match plans submitted for each capital outlay project, and these plans can be dynamic, and as previously, we'll monitor and report those as necessary. Also, it's important that we're able to maintain our existing facilities. Over the past 5 years, we've received an average annual funding for capital maintenance of approximately $17,260,000. The formula presented on the booklet, page 8, for the annual target funding for capital maintenance produces a target of just over $42 million. The annual target number is the level of capital maintenance funding for our buildings and infrastructure that we need to strive for each year. On booklets, pages 9, 10, and 11, we have a summary of the capital maintenance projects. We've worked carefully on this list to address the major needs of our systems in a meaningful way. With approximately 10 million square feet of educational general space spread across 40 main campuses and a number of off-campus operations, we have a constant and growing need for capital maintenance. We're recommending 60 projects for the 2019-2020, as shown on booklets pages 9 through 11. These projects total $42,820,000. In addition to the annual renewal request, there were 4 additional maintenance projects that were submitted by the campuses totaling $2,450,000, and these are also would make a total capital maintenance list of $45,270,000. On page 12, there's a list of projects that campuses are disclosing to be funded from other funding sources. This is a project disclosure list that has been included in the governor's budget. Gives the state government a heads up as to projects that campuses may be planning in addition to capital budget requests. These projects do not have a priority order. And funding for these projects on the list can come from a number of sources, including gifts, grants, fees, as well as plant funds. If projects are listed with student fees that may require a future board activity, that this doesn't substitute for that approval. I have one comment. The projects that we have listed, there are 11 projects, and we had received some information from one of the campuses. So currently, there are only 6 projects that will be on this list with just over $5 million. These are your action as far as the budget goes is just an acknowledgement. These will be included in the governor's budget. So we're not asking for your approval on the funding of these projects. And we'll report, when we submit this to THAC, we'll report the actual number of disclosed projects that will go forward. The next slide in booklet page 13 show a 5-year estimate for capital outlay and maintenance. Out years for capital maintenance have been adjusted. Since the actual appropriations will vary on an annual request for capital outlay, the totals of year 2 through 5 will change. An allocation for capital maintenance is shown along with yearly totals, which produces a 5-year total of just over $700 million. The next slide on page 15 of your booklet gives a recap of the staff's recommendation for the 2019-2020 capital budget request for a total of $218,300,000. These recommendations are presented for your consideration and approval. Chairman Duckett, that completes the staff's presentation of the capital budget recommendations to this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy. We have received the capital budget recommendations. Does anyone have any questions regarding the capital budget recommendations? If not, is there a motion to approve the recommendations as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Prescott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Regent Hatch. This is an item that does in fact requires a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Regent Autry,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Chairman Duckett,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Prescott.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. This completes our agenda for today. Is there any other business to come before this committee? If not, without objection, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we begin personnel, I neglected to mention one thing. We noted Regent Griscom's absence when the secretary called the roll, and I did want to note that Tom Griscom, of course, is one of the most active members on this board and is always present, but he is where he needs to be this afternoon and where he should be, and that is at Claude Ramsey's funeral. So he will join us tomorrow, but my apologies for not noting that sooner. Thank you. Regent Hatch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm calling the Committee on Personnel and Compensation of the Tennessee Board of Regents to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Hatch.
Here.
Regent Green. Here. Regent Markham.
Here.
Regent Shockey. Here. Regent Templeton. Here. Regent Varlin. Regent White. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have 7 items on the agenda today. The first one is recommendation for tenure and promotion at the community colleges. I'd like to call on Associate Vice Chancellor Greg Cedric.
Good afternoon, Regents. The 2018-2019 Community College Tenure and Promotion Recommendations. I'll begin with first. The Committee on Personnel was asked to act on the recommendations for the granting of tenure and promotion to eligible faculty members at the community colleges. The recommendations are made within the requirements of TBR policy on tenure and promotion. The community college presidents have submitted these recommendations with supporting materials and have certified that approved campus policies and procedures were followed in each case. TBR staff review indicates that the institutions have been consistent in their application of board and institutional personnel policies pertinent to these decisions. Staff analysis shows there are no unusual increases or decreases in percentages of promotion or tenure recommendations over the past 4 years. The TBR Academic Affairs staff recommends approval of the single recommendation for promotion by exception by Volunteer State Community College. Summary tables and list of faculty members recommended for promotion or tenure and justification promotions by exception immediately follow your material following a brief staff observation of the recommendation. Excuse me. The Table 1 summarizes the impact of tenure recommendations at each community colleges. 56 faculty members are recommended for tenure. This is a slight increase from the previous year of 51 recommended for tenure. It does not represent a trend or an exceptional change over the past 4 years. The percentage of tenure faculty members in 2018-19 will range from 22.6% at Nashville State to 68% at Pellissippi State and Roane State. This represents a 3.3 decrease than the previous 4-year rolling average at Nashville State and no change at Pellissippi State. The percent of tenured faculty increases at 4 community colleges. It decreases at 8 and remains the same for 1 over a 4-year moving average. No unusual deviations are noted by staff analysis. There are no tenure exceptions or recommended at this time. Table 2 provides the following summary data on promotions. 174 faculty members are recommended for promotion in 2018-19. The number of promotion increases by 15 from 2017-18. This increase is within statistical control limits over an 8-year period, and no deviation from normal is noted by staff analysis. The percent of total community college faculty recommended for promotion in 2018-19 ranges from 4% at Roane State and 13.6% at Northeast State. The range is also normal to this process. Recommended promotions includes one exception, as mentioned before, at Volunteer State Community College. Justifications are found at the end of the report that was submitted to you to support that recommendation. I am available for questions on community college promotion and tenure recommendations by staff.
Any questions or discussions? Thank you, Dr. Cedric. Can I get a motion for, or there being no questions, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All right, this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 2, recommendation for tenure and promotion at the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. Dr.
Yes.
Cedric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee will be asked to act on recommendations for granting promotion and tenure to eligible faculty members at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. A list of faculty members being recommended for promotion and tenure is shown as attachment A1 and B1 in your booklets. The recommendation and supporting documents were submitted by the TCAT presidents and were certified by them as having been processed through the approved institutional procedures. They have been reviewed by board staff and are endorsed for favorable consideration by this personnel committee. A summary of the tables regarding promotion and tenure for each center has been prepared. The 45 faculty members who have been recommended for promotion represents 8.2% of the TCAT instructional staff. The 4 faculty members recommended for tenure represents a 0.7% of the TCAT instructional staff. Again, tables are provided in A2 and B2 for specifics. Excuse me. Under promotions, the 45 promotions are divided into the following categories: 26 to instructional, second rank, 11 to senior instructional, third rank, and 3 to master instructional, fourth rank, and 5 to master instructor 2, which is our highest rank. With the approval of tenure, it will represent total of 16%. There is one recommendation for promotion by exception, which also can be found in your notes, which was, can be found in your notes, perhaps not mine. There they are. From Harriman, Tennessee College of Applied Technology, for instructor Weatherly. The specifics is a more than 40 years experience in the automotive field. The review by the staff at CBR has found that he has met all certifications required at that instructor level from national accrediting societies, and it is recommended by the staff for that exceptional promotion.
Thank you, Dr. Cedric. Any questions or discussion? I'd like to call for a motion for the recommendation of tenure and promotion at the TCATs. Second. Regent Varlin, thank you. We need a voice vote on the motion. Everyone in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item 3, we're going to review and consider approval of faculty promotional increases. Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you now, for your consideration are the salary increases that go along with the faculty promotions that were just presented to you by Dr. Cedric. You should have the details of those increases in the materials that have been provided to you. In summary, the community college increases totaled $395,658 for the 174 promotions, and the TCAT increases total $178,291 for their 45 increases. TBR staff has verified the proposed ranks of the individuals submitted for promotion by the institutions and ensured a corresponding increase for those that were eligible or an exception would have been noted. Mr. Chairman, TBR staff recommends approval of the promotional increases for the 174 community college faculty and 45 TCAT faculty.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs. Any discussion or questions? Is there a motion to approve the increases as presented? Thank you, Regent Shockey. Is there a second? Thank you, Regent Markham. Roll call vote. All in favor? Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. There is, roll call vote. So.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Chairman Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Markham, Regent Shockey, Regent Templeton, Regent Varlin. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Item 4, review and consider approval of institutional requests for new or amended compensation plans. Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Mr. Chairman, before you today, you have one new compensation plan for your approval. In accordance with TBR Guideline P043, Walter State Community Colleges has submitted a new compensation plan for your approval. And please be reminded that today you will only be approving the plan and its methodology. Any payments on the plan would come before you for your approval at the September board meeting. The plan provides a compensation framework for all employee groups to address changes in market value. Their previous plan was completed and approved in 2010. All positions in the proposed plan are priced at 100% of the market. The study includes all employees and all job classifications: clerical and support, administrative professional, executives, faculty, and deans. F&H Solution Group was used to assist the campus in the development of the compensation plan. F&H has been used by several of our institutions in the past for the development of their compensation plans. The new compensation plan was reviewed within the system office by a committee with representation from the TBR offices of Academic Affairs, Finance, and Human Resources. The committee reviewed the proposed plan for methodology, market data being used, equity, consistency, completeness, and clarity. Mr. Chairman, after review of the proposed plan, the committee respectfully recommends board approval of Walter State's new compensation plan.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Is there a motion to approve these increases? Thank you, Regent Templeton. Is there a second? Thank you, Regent Green. Roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Chairman Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Markham, Regent Shockey, Regent Templeton, Regent Varlin. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is review and consider approval of system-wide compensation strategy. Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Included in your materials is information related to the proposed system-wide compensation strategy for fiscal year 18-19. The proposal attempts to address the collective compensation issues identified by our institutions, while at the same time offering both consistency and flexibility. Highlights of the recommended system-wide compensation strategy include a salary pool would be created of 2.5% of the salaries of all regular, full, and part-time benefit eligible employees, restricted and unrestricted, on the payroll as of June 30th, 2018. The salary pool would be used for the following purposes: There would be a mandatory cost of living adjustment of 1.5% for all regular, full-time, and part-time benefit eligible employees, restricted and unrestricted, effective July 1, 2018. And subject to institutional request and board approval, the remaining salary pool may be used for the following purposes: a supplemental cost of living adjustment of up to 1%, or compensation plan improvements or adjustments, or faculty promotions. So again, we would have a 2.5% pool that we're working with, 1.5% would be COLA, and the institutions would have flexibility with the other 1%. Also, those institutions may have additional institutional funding capacity. Those that do locally funded adjustments would be considered. For those adjustments, institutions would be authorized to provide salary adjustments consistent with those mentioned above, as well as a one-time payment option using uncommitted local funds. The institution will submit their recommendation and their proposed effective date of payments with the proposal for review at the September board meeting. With regard to the process, the payment of the 1.5% COLA would be effective July 1, 2018. And then should the institution opt for the payment of the supplemental COLA of a maximum of 1%, that payment would also be effective July 1, 2018. But if not being used for a cost of living adjustments, institutions will submit proposals to staff by August 15th related to use of the remaining 1% salary pool or for any locally funded request. Board staff will review and summarize those proposals and submit the institutional proposals to the committee and board for consideration during the September board meeting. You will have before you the institutions that have opted to provide a full 2.5% cost of living adjustment. Those institutions are Cleveland State, Columbia, Dyersburg, Motlow, Nashville, Pellissippi, Roane, Southwest, Volunteer, Walters, the TCATS, and the system office. There are 3 institutions that have requested to provide less than the 2.5% COLA. Those would be Chattanooga State, 2%, Jackson, 1.5%, Northeast, 1.5%. However, by August 15th, these 3 institutions will submit to us their request for use of the remaining portions of the 2.5% salary pool. Mr. Chairman, staff recommends the approval of the system-wide compensation strategy as presented, including approval of the system-wide 1.5% COLA effective July 1, 2018, and approval of supplemental COLA of up to an additional 1% effective July 1, 2018 for those institutions that have requested such action. And for those institutions not electing to request a supplemental COLA, authorize the submission of proposals for use of the remaining 1% salary pool consistent with the guidelines outlined in the board transmittal. Authorize institutions to submit requests for uses of local funds for compensation purposes consistent with the purposes outlined in the board transmittal. Mr. Chairman, this concludes our recommendations.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs. Any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the increases as presented? Thank you, Regent Markham. Is there a second? Thank you, Regent Green. Roll call vote.
Thank you. Regent Green. Chairman Hatch.
Aye.
Regent Markham. Regent Shockey. Regent Templeton. Regent Varlin. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next item is review and consider approval of executive incentive compensation plan payments. Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, to first provide a little history, the current executive performance incentive plan was approved in June of 2013. In the current compensation plan, the salaries for the chancellor and institutional presidents are set at 90% of the market average for comparable positions. The executive performance incentive plan provides an opportunity for these leaders to earn up to the market value of their respective positions on an annual basis based on institutional and individual performance. The incentive does not add to the base salary for the positions and will be recalculated each year, and this is the fourth year of the operation of the plan. So to recap the plan, the incentive plan allows for a non-recurring incentive payment amount up to or equal to 10% of the market average salary for comparable positions. The eligible participants in the plan include the presidents of the community colleges and TCATs, as well as the chancellor. Now, there are two components to the plan. The first component is metric-based, and there they can earn up to 85% of the 10% total. And for the community colleges, this is tied to the 11 outcome measures used in the outcomes-based funding formula for the colleges. In other words, we will look year over year to see if their performance went up or down, their institutional performance went up or down with regard to the funding formula. And for the TCATs, there are 5 specific metrics for TCATs that is used to award 85% of the 10% total. And for the TCATs, those 5 specific metrics include completion, placement, fundraising, expanded offerings, and growth in clock hours, as well as growth in FTE. The second component is the discretionary allowance, and this will allow up to 15% of the 10% to be awarded. And this is based on performance outside those enumerated within the metric-based allowance and is used to award the remaining 15% of the 10% total. Mr. Chairman, with regards to recommended action, it is the staff's recommendation to approve the metric and discretionary incentive payments as detailed in Attachment A of the Board transmittal materials.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs. After discussion with Vice Chair Reynolds as the Chair of the Personnel and Compensation Committee, I recommend the Chancellor be provided the metric-based incentive for which she is eligible, as well as the full amount of the discretionary incentive pay for which she is eligible. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the increases as presented? Thank you, Chancellor, or Regent Barlin. Call for a second. Sorry about that promotion or demotion. Is there a second? Thank you, Regent Templeton. We need a roll call vote. Madam Secretary?
Thank you. Regent Green,
Aye.
Chairman Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Markham, Regent Templeton, Regent Shockey, Regent Varlin. Motion carries.
Thank you. Final item, item 7, review and consider approval of President Emeritus contracts. General Counsel Mary Moody.
State law requires that President Emeritus contracts be renewed annually. This year, we're bringing 7 contracts to you for your review and approval. Each one of these presidents has, as required by law, submitted a report on the work they performed in the previous year. Those reports are included in your materials, along with the contracts proposed for the next year. If anybody has any questions about any of the contracts, I'd be happy to answer them, but the contracts comply with both state law and TBR policy on contracts with Presidents Emeritus.
Any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the President Emeritus contracts as presented? Thank you, Regent Markham. Is there a second?
Second.
Who said that? Regent Green, thank you. Roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Chairman Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Markham, Regent Shockey, Regent Templeton, Regent Varlin. Motion passes.
Thank you. This concludes our agenda for the Committee on Personnel and Compensation. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Is there a second? Thank you. The Committee on Personnel and Compensation stands adjourned. Thank you.
I'm next, right?
All righty. All right, I'd like to call the Committee on Academic Policies, Programs, and Student Life to order. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll? Here.
Regent Farland. Regent Kraus. Regent Duckett. Regent McQueen. Regent Mitchell.
Here.
Regent Autry.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have one item on the agenda today, the proposed new technical program implementations, modifications, and terminations for TCATS. And I'd like to call Associate Vice Chancellor Greg Cedric to present that to us.
Thank you so much. This is truly a pleasure. Previously, with the promotion tenure, it's been my privilege to do that the past 5 years. This is the first opportunity I've had to talk about the exciting new things that are happening at TBR in terms of new program proposals. There is a long list of slides that are about to be prepared or about to be presented before you. I'm not sure that those are going to be that necessary, so let me try to summarize some of this to speed up the time with you to discuss anything that you would wish to discuss. As you know, the primary mission in the TCAT system is workforce development. They focus every day making sure that they are discussing with their mission area that they can train their students to be excellent employees and strengthen the economic development in their communities. That mission requires them to be in constant communication with all stakeholders and to move very quickly for these workforce needs. Following that model, there are 15 program proposals that have been carefully reviewed by the Academic Affairs Office that we present before you. Each one of these have an implementation proposal that you have in your materials that are organized by objectives, by the industry need, by the projected completion of students coming from this program if the program is approved, the projected cost, the faculties required, and also the fiscal statement. With that said, I would like to go through this list of proposals that are being presented in front of you right now. At TCAT Crump, there is implementation of a health information management technology program. This has been a very successful program, and actually they're out of space at their current location to be relocated at Columbia State College, Community College, Clifton campus. There are 2 welding technology programs that are being proposed to you. One first at TCAT Crump to be located at the Wayne County Technology Center, and the other at the Chester implementation of the welding technology program again at the Chester County High School. Before you, you have the implementation proposal of a patient care technology medical assisting program at TCAT Hartsville. Implementation of a cosmetology instructor training program, and I've had to learn how to pronounce this being from Missouri, at TCAT Holmall. Thank you. Implementation of a manicure program at TCAT Holmall. Implementation of a patient care technology medical assisting program at TCAT Holmall. And implementation of a telecommunications technology program at TCAT Holmall. Implementation of a residential, commercial, industrial electricity program at TCAT Jacksboro. Implementation of a retail hospitality, and it's so good, we're going to, there we go. Hospitality and tourism technology program at TCAT Jacksboro. Implementation of a computer information technology program at TCAT Jacksboro to be located at the Cumberland Gap High School. Implementation of a transportation, distribution, warehousing, and logistics program at TCAT Livingston. Implementation of a customer service representative program at TCAT McMinnville, implementation of a global logistics and supply chain technology program at TCAT McMinnville, implementation of an information technology and infrastructure management program at TCAT Murfreesboro. So as you can see, there is a lot of implementation proposals and excitement going on at our TCATs. Madam Chair, do you wish to go through the vote here or also cover the information items from this area?
Excuse me, what did you say?
Would you like to vote on the proposals in front of you at this point in time?
Okay.
We also have some for your information items also
All right, let's go
in this
ahead
report.
and do the vote. If you're making this recommendation for these changes.
We are making recommendations
Okay.
for those changes.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve that recommendation? Thank you, Regent Barlin. Is there a second?
Second.
Regent Mitchell. Now, are there any, is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, this requires a voice vote, so all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. And I would say that this is the heart of what we do, and it is exciting to see all of these programs that are offered, and I just want to compliment everyone, all the staff, all the presidents and the teachers, and all that make this possible. Okay, you want to continue?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are also, in addition to this, there is also modifications that happen both at the TCATs and at the community colleges, and per policy, these have been delegated to the Chancellor for approval as recommended by the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. There are 10 such with the TCATs for information items that are brought before this committee. Those include modifications of the program link for a community computer information program at TCAT Crump, modification to the length of the computer. There are several modifications here on credit hour, or on clock hours. They're all based upon standardizing this across the state. It is a change in those hours, therefore, that this program would be considered consistent across the state of Tennessee. That will take up just about all of those except for a name change. We have a name change that is happening at one of our TCATs, and it is simply trying to reflect a term and expansion of clock hours in the mechatronics program that is occurring. We are also a recommendation of retirement of 4, the electronics program at TCAT Crump, the CNC operator program at TCAT Crump, the industrial electricity at TCAT Jacksboro, and the computer information technology at TCAT Murfreesboro. Before we give the impression to the regents that we are accepting in academic affairs termination of programs, rest assured that these are actually upgrades that are happening within the new programs that you have just voted on. With that said, Chairman Prescott, all of these program alterations, additions, modifications are very responsive to the needs of the students, businesses, of industries. And I am available to answer any questions about those modifications or terminations as desired.
Okay. And these modifications and terminations, these are informational items? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone have any questions? All right. Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that completes our agenda, so do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Regent Duckett. Is there a second? Thank you, Regent Mitchell. And so our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Regent Prescott. We'll bring the gavel this way for Regent Markham in External Affairs. I think everybody had too much chicken pot pie and strawberry shortcake, but we are moving well this afternoon. And you guys all know, there's a lot of work that goes into this in our committee meetings and our Committee on Committees Day, and we have a chance to do our homework prior to this. But this update we have not heard, so this will be most interesting. Thank you.
Did you hear me? I said, wake up. Welcome to the External Affairs Committee, and thank everyone for being here. We have 3 agenda items before us, and I'd like to ask Sonia Mason to call the roll.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Here.
Regent Green,
Here.
Regent Griscom, Regent Hatch,
Here.
Regent Kraus, Chairman Markham,
Here.
Regent Shockey, Regent Summons,
Here.
Regent Varlin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, at this time, I'd like to call on Coordinator of Government and Community Relations, Kristen Beloff, to provide us with an overview of the second session of the 110th General Assembly and preparations for the 111th General Assembly. Kristen, there she is. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Chancellor Tidings, and members of the committee. I want to start with the conclusion of the 110th General Assembly. The second year of the 110th General Assembly convened on January 9th, 2018. TBR began with the legislative priorities of securing funding formula, capital outlay, capital maintenance, and special initiatives funding, and the extension of the TBR sunset. We also encouraged and supported the expansion of early post-secondary opportunities for all high school students to support the Drive to 55. We also ensured the statewide campus safety and security of TBR's students and supported efforts to expand college access to all Tennessee high school graduates. The first bill underneath the Complete to Compete, House Bill 2114 and Senate Bill 2259, created the Complete to Compete agenda through the Complete College Act of 2018. The bill failed to pass on the House floor, although the bill was referred to Senate Calendar Committee. The next bill under dual enrollment is House Bill 2155, Senate Bill 2078, which established a first right of refusal for a TBR college to provide dual enrollment to an LEA. If a TBR college was unable to provide the desired course in a reasonable time frame, the LEA may partner elsewhere. The bill did not affect partnerships that were already in place. The bill was taken off notice in House Education, Instruction, and Programs Subcommittee and assigned a general subcommittee in the Senate. The bill's sponsor, Leader Hawk, requested the governor's office facilitate a task force between all the stakeholders. The next bill under dual enrollment, which is House Bill 2030, Senate Bill 1975, created a 2-year dual enrollment mechatronics pilot program. TBR received $1 million from the governor's budget. The next dual enrollment bill is House Bill 740, Senate Bill 1164, and it expanded the dual enrollment grant to fully cover the cost of the 3rd and 4th classes. The bill was calendared in House Education, Administration, and Planning Subcommittee, where it was taken off notice, and the bill was assigned to the General Subcommittee last year in Senate Education. If you look at guns on campus, House Bill 884, the bill allowed the holder of a valid handgun carry permit to carry a firearm at all times in all places in Tennessee. The bill failed in House Civil Justice Sub and was assigned to the General Subcommittee last year in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Under Academic Affairs, House Bill 1758, Senate Bill 1873, certified additional EMT, AEMT training centers operated by ambulance services to provide EMT, AEMT training. The bill was amended substantially to only include a pilot within 5 counties, and the bill passed the House and Senate floors. There were 2 bills underneath undocumented students. The first one is House Bill 2582, Senate Bill 2569, which required public systems of higher education to classify students as in-state for tuition purposes only if the students are Tennessee citizens. The bill was calendared in Education, Administration, Planning Sub in the House, where the bill failed, and the bill was also calendared in Senate Education Committee, where it was taken off notice and assigned to General Subcommittee. The next undocumented students bill was House Bill 2429, Senate Bill 2263. It provided an out-of-state tuition exemption for students who attended a Tennessee high school for 3 years prior to graduation from a Tennessee high school. The bill was referred to House Education Administration and Planning Committee, where it was never calendared, and the bill was calendared in Senate Education Committee, where it was assigned to General Subcommittee. Under Student Success, House Bill 2434, Senate Bill 2174, allowed governing boards of higher education to adopt policies addressing the management of student debts or obligations. The bill did pass both House and the Senate. Also under Student Success, House Bill 789 created a uniform process for the investigation and resolution of an allegation involving sexual violence or other criminal conduct that is made against a student or student group at a public institution of higher education. This bill also passed the House and the Senate. Underneath administrative efficiencies, House Bill 1894, Senate Bill 1839 gave the TBR the statutory authority to combine existing TCATs as needed in an effort to improve operational administration efficiencies. This bill also passed the House and Senate floor. And the last bill is House Bill 738, Senate Bill 734, which created the Joint Higher Education Audit Committee with the authority to perform efficiency audits on public higher education institutions and systems. The bill failed in House Finance, Ways and Means Subcommittee, and the bill was calendared in Senate Finance, Ways and Means Committee, where it was assigned to General Subcommittee. So now that the 110th General Assembly has concluded, we are getting prepared for the 111th. As we are preparing for the 111th General Assembly, we developed some strategic goals for the government relations. The first goal is to assist in strengthening and maintaining quality working relationships between the TBR and the General Assembly. The second goal is to engage TBR leadership, staff, and campus presidents in the process of development and promotion of effective legislative initiatives. And the third goal is to build and maintain a high success rate of legislative action on behalf of the Board of Regents and the Chancellor. With that, we also developed a planning process timeline to guide us through this year. In June through January, we intend to have system office presence at all campus events. In July through August, we will meet with all system office divisions to discuss potential legislation and gather same subject responses from campus leadership. On August 7th, we will have the Presidential Legislative Summit in conjunction with the quarterly President's Meeting. And in September, we intend to present the preliminary legislative priorities to the Chancellor and Regents. In December, we will present finalized legislative priorities to the Board of Regents for affirmation. And in December and January, we will begin engaging legislators on affirmed priorities. On January 8th, 2019, the 111th General Assembly will convene in Nashville. And January through session conclusion, we will engage legislators. Chancellor will present before legislative committees. We will have a TBR Day on the Hill, and we will continue weekly bill review. Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Are there any questions or comments? Well, I can say that I really appreciate your responsible goals and your aggressive plan. Thank you. This is an information item and doesn't require a vote, so I think we can proceed. I believe you have an update on the Assistant Vice Chancellor for External Affairs on strategic advancement to present to us.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, Vice Chancellor McCormick is excited for us to inform you that next month, the Office of External Affairs will be joined by Mr. Chris Perkins as our new Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Advancement. Chris, would you mind standing for everyone?
I believe he's in the audience. Please stand. Chris? Welcome. We can't see you. You're going to have to make your way to the front because all the board can't see you. Welcome. We're delighted to have you.
And I want to give a little background information
Please.
about Chris. Currently, Chris serves as the Athletics Development Officer for the University of North Georgia, where among many other achievements, he originated a capital campaign to fund $2.5 million in private support for UNG's Convocation Center that will soon be home to their men's and women's basketball teams. From 2002 to 2016, Chris served as the Executive Director of Advancement at 3 institutions within the Technical College System of Georgia. At all 3 of these schools, he partnered with donors to generate a double endowment for student emergency funds. He has secured revenue streams from multiple corporate partners such as Nordson, Chico's, Kings Hawaiian, and the Atlanta Falcons. He worked closely with various foundations to secure scholarship funding for those in and starting college, as well as those needing a GED and extra support to make the move into higher education. In addition to his impressive resume of fundraising and development work, Chris is a veteran sports writer and public relations advisor. As a native Middle Tennessean, Chris was glad that we got Georgia on our minds and offered an opportunity for him to volunteer his way back home to the tri-state.
Indeed. Welcome home, Chris. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent report. At this time, I'd like to call on Assistant Vice Chancellor for Marketing and Digital Strategy, Matthew Gann, to provide an overview on the next items, which are the inaugural TBR Award Symposium and Marketing Update.
Go with that first.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, Chancellor Tidings, and members of the committee, I'm going to start off by saying congratulations to Vice Chancellor and Representative McCormick on their first grandchild that was born about an hour ago.
Oh,
so,
wonderful.
Margaret McCormick Betts. So,
And I wanted to mention that Chris hasn't even met his boss, Dr. McCormick, yet, so she was busy this morning. So, welcome Margaret McCormick Betts to the world.
I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to provide a brief update on a few of the many projects in the Marketing and Digital Strategy Department, as well as the awards event that was mentioned at the committee chairs meeting. We're going to start with the awards event. It will be a gathering of leaders in business and industry, legislators joining our faculty, staff, and students to highlight the vital impact of our system to Tennessee's workforce and economy. This will be a 2-day gathering in Nashville in the spring and will combine multiple existing events as well as concluding gala to celebrate our top students and instructors in our system and those businesses and individuals that support our colleges. There will be more information shared about the event in the September board meeting, but I would be glad to answer any questions about that if you have them at this time. It's going to be pretty great. So, moving on. When talking to presidents and staff at our technical colleges over the past year, one of the major topics was the need for more support and production of marketing and collateral graphic design services. We're in the process of implementing a resource to make this happen. Our design team is currently building a set of graphic and publication resources that will be housed in an online system, and the colleges will be able to log into that system, input some simple information, and it will actually generate a workflow to go through editorial process at the system office and then generate print-ready files in a very speedy manner. So the colleges can actually just input the information that they really need and leave the work and the production to us. So that system should be rolling out probably within the next 30 to 60 days. This is going to save time, money, and staff time when developing collateral at our schools and allowing them to grow the TCAT, the College of Applied Technology brand. We also ran 2 digital campaigns this fall, one for Tennessee Promise students and one for Tennessee eCampus. The Tennessee Promise campaign displayed digital ads on websites and on social media promoting campus visits. We know a student who visits one of our campuses is more likely to start school and be more engaged in that process. We delivered 6.2 million web ads and 1.6 million ads on Instagram and Snapchat. And going with industry, pretty conservative numbers, that's a lead generation value of between $900,000 to $2.5 million for our campuses. We tracked over 13,000 campus visits during that process. The next one is the Tennessee eCampus Perfect Fit campaign. This was a pilot program to promote awareness of online classes to current students and geo-targeted areas around those specific campuses. And I think I've mentioned this before. We literally draw a fence around the campus during registration time, and then we promote with the ads that are localized to those campuses about registering for online classes. This idea was that online classes are available if certain classes didn't fit the student's schedule or life circumstances, so they can fill out their schedule with an online class if need be. We delivered about 900,000 ads and believe over time this messaging will increase registrations for online courses when on-campus courses don't necessarily meet the needs of the student. And parts of this campaign are ongoing, and I hope to be able to report more on the success of this campaign at a later date. And I'll be glad to answer any questions about these two.
Good. Any questions for Matthew?
Okay. The next item is Tennessee College Public Relations Association is an organization of public and private universities, community colleges, and technical colleges that the system office and many of our schools are actually actively involved in. I serve as president of that organization, and Tammy Wallace from Ball State Community College serves as the treasurer of that board. And I'm pretty happy to announce that the marketing team at the system office took home 7 awards for low budget publication, electronic newsletter, print advertisement series, radio advertisements, video advertisement, and Rick Locker won gold for speech writing. So give it up to Rick. So, but 4 of those awards were gold, and I'm extremely proud of my team and the work that they're producing right now. And the last item is, it takes a lot of preparation to make these meetings happen behind the scenes. We show up a few days early sometimes. And as some of you may know, my department will be taking over the production of the AV system starting at the Dyersburg meeting in September. So this is Tennessee Tech's last meeting supporting our AV and streaming services. So I just want to give a big thank you to Rick, Dwayne, Ty, and Tom from Tennessee Tech's Office of Communications and Marketing, and they've been an absolute pleasure to work with. So if everybody would give them a round of applause, I'd appreciate it. Just wave. You guys have been amazing to work with. And I've worked with Dwayne, I think, for 11 years now with my time at Tennessee Tech. And also, in closing, Regent Markham, it has been an absolute pleasure working with you for the last 8 years or so. Your leadership, insight, guidance, and friendship have been invaluable and something I will cherish professionally and personally throughout my career. So thank you very much.
Joy is mine. Thank you.
So if any questions from the board?
Any questions, comments?
All right.
Thank you, Matthew.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. This is an informational item and doesn't require a vote. Are there any further items to come before this committee? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion, a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Well
Vice
done,
Chair.
well done. That was all exciting information. Chancellor, do you have any comments before I kind of do our housekeeping matters and close this up here this afternoon?
Just in quick note, I do want to thank Cleveland State for the great hospitality today, the wonderful lunch and the tours. So thank you very much, and we look forward to being with you tonight and tomorrow.
Indeed. And Dr. Seymour, if you'd make your way to the podium, let me take care of a couple of items, but come on up. As the regents know, your committee reports and materials for tomorrow's meeting will be on the TBR app later today. Committee chairs, you'll have actually a hard copy of your committee report at the hotel when we return from dinner this evening. Just as a reminder, tomorrow morning prior to our meeting, we will have a group photo at 8:45 outside of this building. And once again to President Seymour and Smith, thank you for a great start to this day. And thank you also for giving us the chance to meet with some of your PTK students today. Everybody had a pretty compelling life story, and and you're certainly doing a great job leading them, and they're leading this campus. My gosh, their accomplishments were incredible.
I try to keep up with them. We have
thanks.
lots of fun, but thank you very much. They're a great group. We also had 3 students from TCAT Athens there as well. We appreciate the fact that they came down and spent some time during lunch. It's tough to get student interaction with such a quick 26 hours that you're here, so it's quite amazing. But we're very happy to have you here on behalf of Stuart Smith and myself and our 2 colleges. We're honored to have you here and to serve you in providing this opportunity for this meeting. Tonight we got a really special treat. It's a little bit different perhaps than some of the other dinners you've had, and we meant it when we said casual, so we hope that you go back or brought a change of clothes, because it will be casual, it'll be fun. This is going to be at the home of Alan and Janie Jones. Not in their house, but they've got this other beautiful facility there. It'll be quite fun. Alan personally funded Bradley Achieves back before Tennessee Promise got started. And so he's been a great friend to Cleveland State for a long time, and we wanted to find a place that would be kind of a special venue, and they were very gracious to provide their property. So I'm going to stop there and introduce the newest vice president in the TBR system, Alicia Fox. One of the things about leadership is you got to make sure you put great people in great jobs and then give them the opportunity to shine, and she's been a marvelous leader in putting this thing together. I've kind of felt guilty that I just had to show up, and so I want to introduce to you Alicia Fox.
Thank you.
And I'm just here for the housekeeping details. Thanks, we're so excited you're on our campus, and thank you, Dr. Seymour, for introducing me. I'm really excited to be in this role and be on this campus. I love Cleveland State, and I'm excited to see what we're going to do in the future. We got lots of great things going on, so thanks for being here. I'm just here basically to tell you about, for the dinner tonight, as Dr. Seymour said, it is very casual. It's an open air pavilion, so it's, you know, fans and things, but it's warm and it's casual, and we've got some lawn games, so please dress accordingly. If you are riding the bus is leaving from the hotel. It's going to start loading at 6. It's be leaving at 6:15. If you are not staying at the hotel and you just want to grab the bus, we are also leaving from the campus here. That one will leave a little bit earlier, so you'll need to load at 5:30, and it'll leave at 5:45 to meet the ones at the hotel. The hospitality suite will be open at the hotel as soon as you leave here. It's open 24/7 with your key card at the hotel. There's snacks and drinks in there, so that's set up when you leave today, and then it'll be, when we get back from the dinner tonight, it will also be open, and then we'll have a few extras in there this afternoon. And the hotel has breakfast tomorrow from 6:30 to 8:30, and we'll start at 9 in the morning here. We'll have the hospitality suite again open here and at the hotel in the morning. And if you rode the shuttle here, it will be outside and ready to take you back to the hotel as soon as you guys adjourn here. So thank you, guys.
Well, now, ho, before you go, you're the newest VP here? Tell us
Apparently.
about yourself.
Oh, okay, about me. Well,
Okay.
I have been on this campus for almost 12 years.
Okay.
I was the bookstore manager for 8 years, and then I transferred to Chat State for a short little period, and then I took a job back here with the institution. So I've been here actually working for the college since 2014 in several different roles, purchasing and contracts, and then Director of Business Services, AVP of Finance, and now VP of Finance. So I'm excited to be here, and been working in higher education my entire career, so it's home to me, so I love it.
She was once a wedding planner, so she knows how to plan.
Gotcha. I was going to say VP of Finance and other duties as assigned,
Yes,
right?
my hashtag is finance and crafts, so.
Very good. So everybody's got our instructions down for tonight then, 6 o'clock if you're leaving from the hotel. Thank you. And Janie and Alan Jones are two of the most generous people we know, so we'll look forward to oh, good, excellent, excellent. Let me also mention, and thanks for the creativity on our placemats at lunch. So if you wanted to get that bird's eye view of all the good things happening at Cleveland State, well done, Dr. Seymour.
That was a good idea. A lot of times you'll come to different places and you don't know about the counties that we serve, and so that's a direct drawdown from the THEC website. So if you want to go there, you can see any county in the state and see the great statistics. The one that I like the most about all 5 of those counties is that they indicate what college they pick most often, and Cleveland State is #1 in all 5 counties we serve, so that's as it should be.
There
We
you go.
appreciate that.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you very much. We will see you shortly. And let me simply close by saying, Dr. Seymour, you might not have realized this, but you're also hosting a birthday dinner tonight. It is Joey Hatch's birthday, I understand. So happy. Thank you. Pardon?
Table dance.
Oh, that's right, just for Joey, that's right. Thank you for spending it with us. There you go, I love it. Unless there's any further business to come before us this afternoon, we are adjourned and we'll be back bright and early at 9 a.m. Thank you all.